So welcome to How to Live in Love. My name's Alex, and this podcast is in partnership with the book of the same name, How to Live in Love, by Alexander Bell, which is free to download from my website, alexanderbell.org. Now this podcast is entitled Experiencing God. Now many books have been written about God. And of course the original book about God is the Bible. And through reading the Bible and through reading many other spiritual texts and texts about God, we can get an understanding of God's nature and how God views us, how God feels about us. And we can develop quite a rich and complex understanding about God's nature through reading about God, especially through the Bible, which is very comprehensive in its description of how God perceives us and what God's nature is. But it's very important that we don't rely on this mental understanding, this description of God that we get from these texts, and that we come to know for ourselves what God is really like, that we experience God for ourselves in our own being, in our own heart, in our own mind. Because it's all very interesting to understand things mentally, but God is not a mental experience. God is not an understanding in the mind. God is a fully embodied experience in our heart, in every cell of our body, in the expansive space of our mind. We experience God's presence. And this is vital for every human being. It's like a child who never knew their father. Say a young child who grew up and never knowing their father. Now, many people might argue that this was a good thing if the father was aggressive or hostile or unloving. But what if that child had a deeply loving, compassionate, caring father who wanted to educate them and to love them and to help them blossom and grow? And this is the case with us. We have a spiritual father. We have the all-pervading, vast presence of God. But we are ignoring God. We are not open to experience God. We are looking in the wrong direction. And we are wondering, where is my fulfilment in this life? Why don't I feel joyful? Why don't I feel love? Why don't I feel safe and protected? And these are the qualities that God brings to us. A knowledge of God, a knowledge of how God works and operates. A first-hand knowledge, not something we've read, but something we've actually experienced. When we come to perceive how God sees us and how God operates, and we feel God's presence in our heart, then the first thing that happens is we feel deeply secure. We feel safe and protected. We realize that there's nothing to be afraid of, because God is orchestrating everything we experience in our life. God is bringing us the things that we most need to let go of our stubbornness, let go of our arrogance, let go of our fear. God is bringing them to us so that we can get over these hurdles, these obstacles to perceiving God. So this great sense of security comes as we let go of our fears and we realize that we are safe and protected. And our heart begins to open and become stronger and stronger and stronger, so that fear slowly fades away. All our deepest fears slowly fade away to be replaced by love, which is what God is. God's essence is love. So as we open our heart, we allow God to come in. So God's presence, which is love, comes into our heart. So we feel like the sun is always shining upon us inside. this feeling where you're out in nature and the sun is shining and the birds are singing and you just feel like life is so good. Well, when we let God into our heart, when we experience God's love in our heart, then we have the same feeling inside all of the time, no matter what is happening outside. So external events can be turbulent or depressing or miserable, or things outside can be anything. It doesn't matter to us, because inside we have God's bright, warming light shining in our heart. And this brings us joy. This brings us great joy and freedom. Freedom from the influence of anything external. Whatever's happening externally doesn't matter. And when we have this inner strength, this inner light in our heart, then we can change what's going on outside. If there's great negativity or depression or unhappiness in the people around us, we can bring that light from our heart and illuminate external situations, circumstances, and people. So we can be a force of transformation when we allow God to be shining in our heart all of the time, irrespective of what's happening outside, irrespective of how difficult life may be. God is what brings us the strength to become stronger, to become fearless. So this strength is really the greatest quality of God, is that it makes us totally strong. It makes our heart totally strong, capable of dealing with whatever arises in our life and transforming it and illuminating it and bringing joy into every situation. So joy is really an essential quality of God. Of course, it's said that God is love, but I would also say that God is joy. Because love, when it's taken to its extreme, is joyful. It's deeply joyful. It's celebratory. Just as fear, when it's taken to its extreme, is terror, absolute terror. But love, when it's taken to its extreme, is deep, deep joy. Deep joy. Just deep gratitude and celebration. Now, it's all very well to understand these things, but how do we allow God? How do we open our heart to God so we can experience God's presence? Well, the number one thing that we always have to do is to relax our body. Because if we are in tension, then that means fear is present. If there is tension in our body and tension in our heart, that means that fear is present in our body. And we cannot perceive God, we cannot experience God while we are in a state of fear. So the number one thing we have to do is let go of this sense of fear, this tension in our body, which is subtle sometimes. We may not think we're afraid, but if there's tension in our body, then we are anxious about something, we're worried, we're feeling uptight, we're holding our body tense. And so fear is tension. So the first thing we do to let go of this tension is to relax our body and take a few deep breaths and just enjoy the fact that you can relax your body. It's such a gift, such a wonderful practical gift to just be able to relax and let go of tension. That means that fear dissipates and a sense of harmony is restored to our body. And as you do this, you can bring attention to your heart and ask yourself, is my heart relaxed also? And just breathe into your heart, breathe oxygen into that part, into the center of your chest. And just let your heart relax too. Tell your body that you want your heart to relax. And it will do so. Your body will listen to you. It will obey you. So just breathe in gently and breathe out gently, noticing if your body's is holding any tension. And bringing your attention to your heart. Just noticing if your heart is relaxed or if it needs to relax. So just continue to breathe and observe your body and observe your heart. And as your body relaxes more, then a sense of peace and love can come into your heart. A sense of trust and security. Now this is absolutely vital, that we have this sense of security in our body, and in our heart. Because security is not a mental thing. Security is a physical experience where we are relaxed. There's no tension, there's no anxiety in our body. We're relaxed. This is the experience of security. And we really need to feel it. It's the number one primal urge, or primal desire, or primal need, should I say, of every living creature. They need to feel secure. Because if they feel threatened, then they can't do anything else properly. They can't eat. They can't be productive. They can't be creative. If they feel threatened, then they feel insecure. That means there is a threat, and the first thing that they will be concerned with is removing the threat. And whether this means running away from it or destroying the threat, whatever, will be preoccupied with removing the threat from our life. And this is what human beings do when they feel insecure. They try and make themselves feel secure. And a very obvious way of people doing this is through providing comfort, through comfort eating, or building big houses with fences around them. We try and create security. Another very, very powerful way that human beings create security is through their belief systems. They think things which make them feel safe. They look to their thoughts to give them a sense of security. And then when they have thoughts which make them feel safe, then the body relaxes. But we don't need to rely on the mind. We don't need to rely on any thoughts. We just need to go straight to this sense of relaxation and security, bypassing anything external, food, comfort, thoughts, anything, other people. We just bypass that, and we allow a sense of security to come into our body by relaxing our body and feeling open and at peace in this moment. And as we do this, we'll begin to notice something, notice a presence arise in our consciousness. That means not just in our mind, but in our being, in our intuition, in our body, in our mind, everything. We notice a presence, almost like a consciousness, an intelligent consciousness, which we are part of, but which we normally don't perceive, because we are isolated in our own thoughts. But as we come out of our thoughts and we just rest in this state of relaxation, of openness, of peace, then we begin to notice that there is this consciousness, this intelligence, which isn't limited to one place. It's actually everywhere. So as we breathe and relax and just perceive this sense of intelligence, this sense of consciousness, which is absolutely everywhere, in front of our eyes, in our mind, in our heart, in every cell of our body, the intelligence which is the fabric of the universe is right here. And we can experience it, we can perceive it while we relax, while we enjoy just breathing and being in a state of peace, being open, ignoring all thoughts that arise, and just being present to this consciousness, this intelligence. And the more we practice this, then the more real this presence becomes, the more we get used to its nature, what it's like. This is the nature of God. This is the presence of God. And we need to spend time with it every single day to learn about it, to let it permeate our being, so that every cell of our body learns to open up to it and allow it to flow through them. And this is our purpose. Okay, thank you for listening to this podcast, Experiencing God. And please download my book for free at alexanderbell.org, where you will also find lots of very beautiful, healing and uplifting music to enjoy. Thanks for listening.